Welcome to week 2 of our homily series, The Greatest Invitation, in which we're focusing on our mission to invite others to a relationship with God and to be part of God's family, the church. I want you to imagine if the Gospels were missing the story of Peter walking on the water and being lifted by Jesus when he started to sink. And imagine that there was no moment when Peter had the courage to answer rightly to Jesus, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Imagine if we didn't have St. Peter's Square or St. Peter's Basilica. Well, according to the gospel reading this past weekend, St. Peter was personally invited by his brother Andrew to encounter Jesus and to follow him. Andrew found his own brother Simon and told him, "We have found the Messiah," which is translated Christ. Then he brought him to Jesus. But what might have happened if Andrew never made the personal invitation? We'd be missing so much of the blessing the church has received from having Peter as its first leader. And we can tie it all back to a personal invitation to meet Jesus from his brother Andrew. So, what made Andrew want to invite Peter? Well, we can kind of piece together Andrew's personal faith story. Before he met Jesus, he followed John the Baptist, who pointed out Jesus. And Andrew then followed after Jesus and was invited to come and see. The rest was history. Andrew knew that Jesus was the Messiah or Christ and decided to follow him. And some say that we can tell how memorable the moment was to Andrew because even the time of day was recorded. It was about 4 in the afternoon. Andrew then invited his brother Peter to follow Jesus, and Peter ended up being the first pope and the rock of the church. That's a pretty amazing story. And notice how Andrew's memorable encounter with Jesus and then his invitation led to another person, Peter, following Jesus. And I like to imagine that there was even more conversation between Andrew and Peter, which Andrew shared with Peter his story of encountering Jesus. After all, saying "we have found Christ" would probably require some explanation. So, what about your faith story? Have you ever articulated your faith journey to this point? St. Pope Paul VI asks, in the long run, is there any other way of handing on the gospel than by transmitting to another person one's personal experience of faith? And I think that as you continue to take steps to follow Jesus more closely, it's bound to come up in conversation. Someone might ask you why you go to church, or on Ash Wednesday, they might ask you, why do you have ashes on your forehead? And before you know it, you're having a conversation with someone about your faith. It can be hard. It can be hard to articulate something like our relationship with God or how we connect with him, but it can be powerful when we do share it to the best of our ability because the Holy Spirit will work with us as we share. So I'll ask again, have you ever articulated your faith story? As we focus on inviting others, this is a great time to start working on it. The questions for this week are an exercise to get your story started. And if you're in a small group, take turns sharing what you write down. As an example, here's my faith story. I grew up Catholic and had a sense that a person could be in a relationship with God from watching my dad pray after communion at Mass. But for the most part, God was impersonal to me. I saw him as loving, but also as a distant judge. And I think I mostly turned to God when I was worrying because I needed comfort as a habitual worrywart. Then in college, when I was going through a tough time, I happened to sign up for an Intro to New Testament class. And it changed my understanding of Jesus. He leapt off the page with the help of my professor, and I actually got to know Jesus as kind, smart, funny, challenging, and truly interesting. And I started bringing this knowledge to my prayer life, and my faith went deeper from there. Now, I still worry, but much less, And I just have a strong sense of purpose and direction and hope in my life that gets me out of bed and makes me excited for the morning on most days, because each day is an opportunity to know God more deeply and to grow in loving God and others. So, as St. Peter says in his first letter, always be ready to give an explanation to anyone who asks you for a reason for your hope. I hope you enjoy the exercise, and even if you've done something like this before, I encourage you to go through it again. You never know. You never know what new insights you might gain about God's activity in your life as you do it. Well, thank you for continuing the journey with us in this current series. We will see you next time.